All right, welcome back to the Fantasy Labs podcast. This is our Wednesday night weekly podcast where we go through the upcoming slate of games, starting with Thursday and then covering Sunday and Monday as well. We're here with Tank and Peter. No, I'm not sorry, not Peter. We're here with Tank and Bales this week.
Jesus,
Sorry, folks.
Brian.
Peter's looking a little buff this time.
Oh my God.
Our bad start, man. Yeah.
No,
Lord.
no big deal.
Jeez. All right. Yeah. So let's go through this. We're gonna as fast as we can tonight, and try to keep it shorter because I know sometimes we get pretty lengthy, like 2 hours. So we'll go through them as fast as we can. We're not gonna skimp on information, but we'll keep things moving. So let's start. Thursday's game, Colts at Texans, is 45 over under. I checked all of these as of this morning, so these are not opening lines. These are lines as of about noon today. Colts at Texans over under 45. Colts are a 1.5 favorite, so implied points are 23.3 for Colts and 21.8 for the Texans. I think Andrew Luck is still questionable. There was reports that he was going to play, and then today they said he is still questionable. Tank, did you hear me?
Nah, it froze on me for a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, I had it freeze as well. I can hear you
No.
now, though.
Yeah, now we're
No.
good.
Oh, I was just asking you to take it with the Colts Texans game.
Cool. All right, so yeah, just my take on this game, especially with Luck dealing with the shoulder injury. You don't know if you're going to have him or Hasselbeck. I mean, you have to think that both teams are going to lean on the run game. The Colts with their committee led by Frank Gore, and then Houston with. I think you're going to see a lot more Arian Foster this game for sure. I'm not sure exactly how many touches he got last week, but I think they're going to continue to increase his workload as that hamstring starts growing, starts to heal up. I mean, like I said, I mean, with the teams leaning on the run game, I mean, it's probably going to be a lower scoring affair. I could definitely see that, especially with the teams coming off of a short week. I really don't like Ryan Mallett at quarterback. That offense functions better when Hoyer is behind center. So, I mean, when it's talking about guys that I like, I mean, probably the running backs. Say if Frank Gore gets enough touches, he could be appealing, especially near the red zone. Maybe Luck and Hasselbeck lean on maybe Kobe Fleener or something like that. If you look at the Texans, lean on Arian Foster, those other backs, but I would primarily want Arian. And I love DeAndre Hopkins in this matchup. I just don't think Malik could give him the ball. When you saw that Atlanta game last week, Hopkins was non-existent. Then when Hoyer came in, that's when he got off, and he ended up throwing up a decent stat line after that. So those are really the guys I like, but I expect it to be a low-scoring game and probably not enough pop in there for you to, benefit in the million maker pools.
Yeah, so for me,
Bales, what are your thoughts?
if Luck plays, I actually kind of this is one of the weird times where I might play a Thursday player in tournaments because I think that Luck is going to be really low owned for a couple reasons. One is obviously that we don't know if he's going to play, so we probably won't know if he's going to play until later in the day on Thursday. And obviously he's played really, really poorly so far, so people are scared away by him. So if he does play, I actually like that as a contrarian play because he's still a great quarterback. He can sort of go off against anyone, so I'm not really worried about him long term. And then on the Texans, DeAndre, I think Vontae Davis is hurt, and we don't know if he's going to play. If he doesn't play, DeAndre is in a pretty good matchup, and he saw 20 targets last week. He's seeing so many targets that he doesn't even need to be efficient. So with that sort of volume and Vontae Davis out, I think DeAndre becomes potentially a cash game play on Thursday night.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I think people might be off DeAndre a little bit. Yeah, I saw that he had 22 targets last week, which obviously the week is ridiculous volume, and I think people might be a little off of him just because the news came out Arian said that he wanted to get Foster more involved and more touches. He only had 8 touches last week. So I think people might be a little more on Foster, which would take them away from Hopkins in just the Thursday situation anyway. So the Bills at the Titans. Titans are coming off a bye. This is the lowest over/under of the week at 41.5 right now. Bills are only 2.5-point favorites on the road. So implied points are Bills at 22 and Titans at 19.5. Seems kind of low for the spread. Tank, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, the Bills, I mean, they can't get right. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I mean, in some cases, they look like a shutdown defense where teams can really score on them, and then other occasions you have guys like the Patriots and other squads just throwing up, touchdowns left and right on the Bills. I mean, I expect them to go into Tennessee, and this be like one of the games I'm accustomed to playing when the Titans play the Bills. It's going to be hard-nosed. Both teams are going to try to run the ball. I'm not exactly sure what Carlos Williams' status is, but I know they would probably lean heavy on him if he's available. If not, they'll have to turn somewhere else. But both teams have been susceptible to the pass a little bit too. So, this one's, it's kind of tricky. I mean, I think both of those tight ends can have a decent game. I like Delanie Walker and I like Charles Clay in this one. I mean, I think that Taylor can use his legs and his arms and have an effective game. But I'm not sure what Watkins' status is, but if he's still out, then I think you can maybe look at Harvin to be that deep threat. We saw what Travis Benjamin was able to do against the Titans a couple of weeks ago. And so you can see Harvin definitely like replicating that production against the Titans with the right opportunities. And then also, Mariota loves Kendall Wright, and so definitely that pairing would be something to watch out for if the Bills continue to give up a lot of yards in the passing game.
Yeah, so for me, I think that the 2 tight ends you can make a case for in tournaments. So Clay and Walker. Otherwise, I'll pretty much be avoiding this game. I don't even know that I'm going to play them. Outside of, I think you could make an argument for Tyrod Taylor. But the problem with him, I think right now is I think his upside is a bit overrated. He's not going to throw for 4 touchdown passes in all likelihood. He'll run, and it gives him a high floor that makes him good for cash. But you could probably argue that there's better options for cash games at quarterback this week than Tyrod Taylor in that price range or slightly above. So I probably won't be on him that much in cash, and because of that lack of upside, not that much in tournaments. So even if he offers value or even if he's underpriced, doesn't really have the floor or ceiling that I would be looking for in specific league types. And so for that reason, maybe undecided on Taylor a little bit, but probably won't have too much exposure. I'd say overall just fading the game.
Yeah. Usually, yeah. I mean, it's pretty significantly, I guess. Now it's about a point lower than anything else on the slate. Yeah, Tyrod, I think he might still be a little overowned than what he should be this week, just because everyone's been touting him as like the safe cash game play because of his legs for like the last 4 weeks. So I think people will continue to roll him out. Carlos is still pretty cheap, and I know he's in this concussion protocol, but it looks like I think he's going to play. So I think people will be on them again because Carlos got that touchdown. But yeah, it is hard, especially when Vegas is just so down on this game to really be optimistic about it. So yeah, I think we all kind of have similar thoughts in that regard. Probably GPP only if you're going that route. So moving on to the next game is the Bears at the Chiefs. Over/under is 44.5, and the Chiefs are really big favorites. They are one of the 2 double-digit favorites of the week, and they are at -10 at the low points of the weekend, 17.3, and the Chiefs at one of the highest at 27.3. So, Tank, what are your thoughts on this one? You think the Chiefs can put up a lot of points?
I mean, nothing that the Chiefs have showed me this year tells me that they can throw up a lot of points. I actually think that this would be a really good game. I mean, both of these teams are very similar where the quarterbacks can, put up decent numbers at times. passing games can get going, but then other times they can just become turnover prone. And both of these defense, I mean, the Chiefs are, of course, a better defense than the Bears, but they've been, taking the task, the past couple of weeks. And so, I mean, that can definitely happen. Again, I think the one thing that limits the Bears a little bit is not having Alshon Jeffrey, but if he's back this week, this could be an intriguing play. I like where Jay Cutler is. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was somewhere around 5,800 or something like that, maybe even 53 on draft.
Yeah, I think he's even lower than that. Yeah.
I think he's 5,300. So
53, yeah.
Yeah, actually, with that matchup against Kansas City and the issues they're having with their secondary, especially in the slot, I mean, I still think Jay can take advantage with his slot receivers with Martellus Bennett. So I like those plays. I like Matt Forte against Kansas City. I think he can do well. And on the flip side, I mean, Alex Smith. Oh, Alex Smith. I really don't know what to say about him, but I think that he showed that he had a nice connection rapport with Macklin against the Bengals. So if he can do that against them, I mean, you have to think he can likely have similar production against that Bears defense. And, of course, Jamal Charles should be able to do what he does. But, I mean, that's, I think those are the guys I touched. Of course, Kelsey. Kelsey should be involved in this matchup. But you never know what these defense will be able to do. I mean, you would think that the Chiefs may be a sneaky play. I mean, but they could end up getting a lot of turnovers over Cutler at the same time. I mean, Cutler can end up scorching them too. So, I mean, I don't really have a lot of faith in the defenses in this matchup.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs' defense is interesting for tournaments. Definitely not in cash. Cutler could be great. He could be awful. We have no idea. The player who I like the most in this game by far is Charles, who's actually my number one player at any position in terms of projected points, which is crazy because he's usually a quarterback. But I have Charles at actually I take that back. It's Julio, but number two right behind him is is Charles. And I love Charles in this game because the line is really interesting. Even though the Bears have a poor defense, you wouldn't think the Chiefs would be at basically 4 touchdowns, right? It's strange and sort of I would think that they would be closer to 24 points or something like that. So that's interesting to me. And then Charles has such a high market share of their touchdowns. They don't throw to the receivers, as we know. Alex Smith, is basically going to throw to Kelsey. I think if they're going to score through the air, or Charles, and basically those are the two guys who I think are very likely to score the touchdowns in that game. And then on Sunday, when the props come out, those will be really interesting because if that matches up with that, if Charles is like, minus 200 or something, very probable to score, then that's just going to sort of reaffirm my belief that he is the best running back to play this week. Charles is the guy that I'm going to have, and I'm going to have him all over.
Yeah, I agree with that. He has averaged just about 6 receptions a game. So I mean, yeah, you're talking a guy who's going to get a ton of attempts running the ball as well as through the air as well, just because Smith is the dump down king. But so I agree on Charles. I think he's the number one cash game play. Tank, I want to ask you about Kelsey. Because he was the guy who was supposed to be the mini Gronk, and he had that first week game where he went off for over 30 points and a couple touchdowns, and since then has just been all right. Do you think that we're going to see a resurgence at some point in the year, or is this kind of the line? I think he's been at he's been at 4 or 5 receptions for anywhere from 50 to 70 yards. Is that just kind of the normal for him this year?
I mean, I think that's what you should expect, and then know that he's going to have an explosion here or there just based off game plan. I mean, when you think about New England's offense, their offense runs through Gronk. He's the one that lets the running game get off. He's the one who helps Julian Edelman and all those other guys get off. I mean, because the offensive line really isn't that good, but you have so much attention attracted to Gronk that they're playing with light boxes, so that's why, Blunt, and then is it Lewis, the running back, small running back?
Dion Lewis.
Dion Lewis.
Hmm.
Yeah. So those guys are able to get off, and then Edelman has single coverage on the outside, and that's all because of Gronk as well. I mean, so and when you flip it to the Kansas City Chiefs offense, everything is going through Jamal Charles. I mean, so everything is established with the running game. You can see that people are like, why don't you throw the ball to McLemore? Just because that whole offense is predicated on Jamal Charles, whether it's run ball, screens, swing passes, stuff like that. So Kelsey, I mean, they try to involve him, they try to make an effort, but it's not top of mind. I mean, top of mind to them is Jamal Charles, and until that changes, he's only going to be, somewhat of an afterthought in that offense.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, let's move on. Next game is Browns at Ravens. We're at a under. It's 43 right now. Ravens are 6.5 point favorites. And so that puts implied points Browns at a low 18.3 and the Ravens at 24.8, which is interesting because Steve Smith is not playing, Crockett Gilmore's not playing, Vegas is assuming that the Ravens are going to score points somehow. I'm not sure if that's through Justin Forsett or one of these min-price receivers, and whether it's Kamar Aiken or whoever, but I think that there could be some value here if you find the right guys. Tank, take it away. What are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, that's the thing. You really just have to pick the right horse in this matchup when it comes to the Ravens receivers. I mean, whether it's Kamar Aiken or Marlon Brown or some of these other guys, you just don't know who it is. But, I mean, one of those guys could get off and end up winning you $1 million. I mean, I think you saw last week that, they made a concerted effort to get, Justin Forsett more involved in the run game and pass game. He came through with good production last week. I like the matchup for Joe Flacco as well against that Browns defense, against that Browns secondary. I mean, I think Joe Hayden may be back, but even when Hayden is in the lineup, they've given up a lot of yardage, especially in the run and pass game. So I think, those Ravens can have, a good game this week. And then on the flip side, the Ravens defense has been inconsistent. You see Josh McCown threw the ball around a lot against the Chargers last week. I think this could be a game where Travis Benjamin could have a big day. So you want to take a flyer out on him. I mean, it could be worthwhile. Gary Barnidge would probably be someone that continues to get targeted. I mean, he probably won't be heavily owned either, so he could be a sleeper. I think Johnson has a little bit more, well, not a little bit more, a lot more upside than Crowell. So maybe he can be sprinkled in there, especially if you think it becomes a shootout. And actually, Josh McCown, too, he threw up decent numbers last week, and he's going against that Ravens defense who lacks a significant pass rush since T. Sizzle is out. So, he could be a sneaky player as well because I'm pretty sure he has good value on DraftKings compared to the rest of the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the player who's going to interest people a lot in this game is Kamar Aiken because there's sort of people just assume that Steve Smith's out. Now they're going to replace those targets with more targets to a receiver, which I don't necessarily think is the case. I think that the player that helps them most is actually Justin Forsett because they're just probably going to run more screens. The Browns already have a pretty bad defense against the run, I believe, or against running backs. I believe they have an opponent plus minus of +1, so they've given up an extra point above expectation on DraftKings over the past 16 games to running backs. So pretty good matchup. I think that the game flow, we really don't know how it's going to go, but Forsett is still pretty safe because if they get down and they're down late, he's still probably going to be on the field. He's still going to get some targets. So probably doesn't really lose too much value even if the Ravens get down. So that's the guy that I'm looking at, and really not much else. I think Aiken offers value just because of how cheap he is, but again, he's one of those players who the range of what he's going to do doesn't really fit with what I'm going to be looking for in certain league types. And I think that he's going to be semi-popular in tournaments, and I think there's a good chance that I'm just going to completely fade.
Yeah, he's going to be the guy that I'm most interested to see. on him because I think he might be one of the top 10 receivers owned. And if that's the case, I think even with the minimum price tag, he might be a fade candidate for me as well. Bales, question for you. I know that we've talked about before. You've said that in like an MLB tournament, you want a player or a batter specifically who has stolen base or home run potential. And I know we've kind of like compared it to NFL. So a guy like Josh McCown, right? So he's had 2 20-point games. He has a positive matchup-ish, I guess, here because of our opponent plus-minus metric. The Ravens have given up more points than expected to quarterbacks historically. So it's like 2 20-point games. He seems to be in a rhythm. So probably doesn't.
He cut out for you?
Yeah, you did.
I'll just wait for him. He can probably edit this out. Just wait for him to come back.
Cool.
The new camera looks good.
Yeah, man, my damn laptop crashed on me, man. It's been crazy.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was on its last leg. I've had it for about 5 years, so I was probably.
Yeah. I just got it. I have my old one here that I still use, but it's like it looks bad. It's all beat up. So I just got a new one just because if that one dies, I'd be in a bad spot.
Yeah. Did you get an Air?
No, I have a PC.
PC? Okay.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't have to restart this because I don't know what would happen then. I think he left. I think it's still good though. He just needs to come back.
Yeah, cool. So how the past couple of weeks been going for you?
Not great. The past week was just like break even. Week 3 was bad. Week 1 was bad, but week 2 was really big. So I had like
You got the qualifier, right?
Yeah, I had the queue, and then I won like $100,000 in cash too. So everything gets made up for in those kinds of weeks.
Yeah. Were those mostly in like the head-to-heads and like?
No, it was mostly tournaments.
Tournaments?
Yeah.
Nice.
I play mostly tournaments. Peter plays mostly head-to-head in cash. He's really good he's much better than I am at that. And but I play in like a very different way than most players, and so I think just the way I think and things like that set up well for tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Peter tries to mostly figure out what the players are going to do and who offers the most value, and he's better than anyone at that. And I like pretty much say I don't know what's going to happen, and I would prefer to just sort of like put myself in a position to just benefit if everyone else is wrong about what they think is going to be right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Are you getting a call from Mears too?
Yeah, I am. Let's see. Hopefully he can.
Yeah. Let's see.
All right, so you want to join this one, I guess?
Yeah.
Let me see. Should we leave this current one? I guess so.
I think so. Yeah.